So I am Stacy Hoagland. I wear a couple hats. So I run the Florida Partners in Policymaking program for the Florida DD Council, and that's primarily what I'm going to be speaking out about today. I am a parent of a 30-year-old with autism. I'm the president of the Autism Society of Florida, and I've been an educational advocate with Family Network on Disabilities of Broward County for 25 years. We are a little bit different than, because most of you guys should know, if you don't know already, about FDD of Florida. It's a fabulous resource across the state. We are different in Broward. We are specifically funded to attend IEP meetings, where FDD of Florida is more of a training organization. We actually get into the nitty-gritty and the down and dirty inside IEP meetings. So I've been going to IEP meetings professionally for 25 years. And I tell my assistant all the time, I really should write everything down, because some of the stuff that I could tell you that happened in IEP meetings, it's like, nobody would believe it, right? You guys who live it, sometimes you walk out of those meetings and you're like, nobody's gonna believe it when I tell them what's happened. So, did you have a question?
No, I was just gonna say, I did work with FND and Pinellas,
Okay.
and she did go to my meetings.
Oh, that's interesting. Was that a long time ago?
No, just the last couple of years.
Okay, that's excellent. Yeah, because a lot of people who work for FND will contact me and they're like, we wish that we could do that. So maybe it's depending upon the area that you live in. Okay, well, they're a fabulous organization. I think they have a table in the exhibit hall. Yes, so you guys should check them out. They offer tons of trainings that are super valuable. And I'm very proud to say that many people who work for FND of Florida were actually partners and policymaking graduates. So they came through the program I'm going to talk to you guys about. All right, so we're going to be talking about something that I refer to as the 4 pillars of advocacy, and I'll explain to you a little about what those are, why I think they're important. And the one thing that I want to start off with is that if you are a parent of a young child especially, I have kind of rough news for you. The district, the school, is not going to come over to you with a silver platter and say, what would you like? So if you're waiting for that to happen, you're in the right place. That's not going to happen. I used to when my son was little. And let me just also back up. I have 2 children. I have a 30-year-old and a 32-year-old. And before I had my kids, I worked for Broward schools. I worked in 2 different elementary schools. Before that, I worked in the budget office. So whenever a principal today tries to tell me about the budget, I love how I can say, I'm very aware of the budget. I worked in the budget office of the 6th largest school district in the country. And so I'm one of those people that thinks that everything happens for a reason. So I didn't know why, because really I didn't even like working there. And I'm not a numbers person, and I don't know if any of you guys are accountants, but y'all are quiet. You work in quiet environments, and I am not. So didn't last there too long. The director actually wanted me to stay, because this is, remember, I'm talking 30, let's say I probably worked there about 35 years ago. There was no Wi-Fi. Like, Wi-Fi wasn't a thing. Certainly these things, yeah, no, none of that. So I physically, when the director needed something to go to the superintendent, it was me taking the papers, not emails, papers, running across the parking lot to the building where the superintendent was. And that's how I got to know the superintendent. I got to know all the school board members, because I actually had to hand them stuff in person. And so that was, again, that was cool, being somebody fairly young and doing that, but at the same time, I had no idea how much benefit that was going to be to me as an advocate. You have to know, and I really don't know any other way to get around it. The systems that we have, whether it's the school system, vocational rehabilitation, job coaching even, understanding what job coaching means, housing, understanding the housing coalition. There's some really great resources out there for housing, but this stuff you have to know as much of, if not more than, those people who are these so-called professionals. I cannot tell you the number of IEP meetings that I sit in, and now that I've been doing it a while and they kind of know me, so they'll say, Stacy, do you know about this? Do you know, what have you heard? And because a lot of times when you think that they're trying to do battle with you, it's just they genuinely don't know. So that's why it's important that you know as much or a little bit more than they do. And one of the things that we talk about in partners in policymaking, because we really learn through the program about educating policymakers. So whether it is a school board member, city council, or at the state level or the federal level, dealing with policymakers, which are AKA politicians pretty much all the time, is you don't ever want to give them an answer if they have a question and you're not sure of your answer. Because if you give them a wrong answer, you are going to be basically discredited and they're never going to want to call you again. So that's one of the things, even when you sit at IEP meetings and you're talking to somebody and you think you're probably right, but you're really not sure that you're right, just say, you know what, I think you're wrong, but I'm not absolutely sure that you're wrong. So I'm going to go check on that. I'm going to get back to you. So what I want you guys to do is just scan that QR code if you're willing. I will do the same, and I have some questions on there. And then you'll be able to watch it on your phone as to how everybody, if it works for me. Yeah, look, okay. So then you can enter your response and then watch. I don't have it set up live here, but if you look on your phones, you'll be able to see how everybody in this room is voting. So it is, which one of the following is your biggest challenge when advocating for yourself or your child? So number one, we have communicating effectively and clearly, knowing your rights and what the law says, identifying who is in control. I'm going to talk about all this stuff as we go. Remaining calm, right? That's hard to do sometimes, remaining calm, or navigating the IEP as a document if you are a parent of a child or somebody working to be an advocate. Okay, so we can see that it looks like the one that has the highest responses is the knowing your rights and what the law says. So we're going to talk about some of that here. And then for anybody who's interested at 5 o'clock, which I kind of hate because it's like late in the day, but I'm going to be doing a training on specifically to parents who choose to have private professionals such as RBTs in your classrooms, because there's a whole bunch of misinformation about that one. And I am going to be specifically focusing on what does the law say so that you can exercise your rights with your schools. All right. So the first thing you got to do when we talk about the pillars is you have to show up. And unfortunately, what I find in today's young people, so I'm talking parents who are in their 20s, they depend upon this thing, specifically social media. And they genuinely believe that posting negative comments on social media is advocacy. Guess what? The systems don't care what you say on social media, because there's more and more information. We'll just just makes that even bigger, is that, you know, like I like podcasts. So I was listening to a podcast on my way from South Florida here the other day, and it was a whole thing on bots. And so we don't even know if those humans that are even making those comments are actually human beings. So the people that you say, oh, you stink, you whatever, that person might be thinking, is this even a human? This might not even be a human. This might be a bot. So that's one thing. Another thing is they get so much of that stuff. But then if they're an elected official, they may get tons of the negative, but they still manage to get reelected. So does what you have to say on social media really matter to them? If they know you personally, but if you're going to make yourself anonymous, I love those. People make themselves anonymous and then they make all these comments. If you can't be out there with yourself, you should probably just say nothing, or call the individual and say, you know, I don't like what you're doing. That's advocacy. Posting on social media is not advocacy. And so unfortunately, you have to show up. So this is a group of us. So these are a couple ladies who have graduated through Partners, is me on the right, and that is the Speaker of the House. This was just a couple months ago. We showed up in Tallahassee during the legislative session. We were making our way through the Capitol, talking to different legislators. We popped into his office. He happens, if you don't know about Danny Perez, he has a brother with autism who has significant challenges, significant. And he's very open about that. And so between him and Senator Al Britton, who is the Senate president, they both have a personal connection to people with disabilities. We have someone with my Autism Society hat We have someone that's one of our volunteers that tracks the number of legislators who have a personal connection to disability, and we're up to about 45. That's a lot of people. And back when my son was little, we always knew it's going to take them to be personally affected before they really start to take it seriously. And I don't know if you pay attention to legislation, because I have to say, if I didn't have to, I would not. Those people have a really hard time dealing with each other. So it's very dark. It's like watching the news. I try not to do that either. And because it just brings more darkness into my life. And I'm an advocate, so I fight for a living. So anytime if somebody wants to pour more darkness in, I just kind of like, shut it out. But this stuff, when you have to deal with policymakers, is so important because it gives you the opportunity. Like, there's nobody else. He took us into the House. So this is the House floor. We were having a conversation outside with him, and he's like, let me take you into the House. So he takes us into the House. We have a great conversation with him. That is advocacy. That's advocacy when you're actually talking to humans, you're showing up. Whether that doesn't need to be here either. You don't have to go to Tallahassee. They all have local offices right there in your towns that you could talk to. And it doesn't have to just be somebody like the Speaker of the House. It could be, like I said, your city council, school board members, really anybody who's elected, because those people who are elected are policymakers. My school board, Broward County, when I used to sit on a lot of committees when my son was in school, because my kids are graduated, so I don't go to as much of those, if at all, really anymore. I show up when I need to as an advocate. Like if I have the chair of our EC advisory, she'll ask me to come, I will go. But when I go, I don't know about your school boards, but mine cannot even get along with each other. And when I sit there, I think, these people are running our system. It just blows my mind. And so the good part about being there and seeing the insanity that sometimes erupts is that it lets me know these are the people in control and which pathway I think we need to go. I'm huge on inclusion. Like, I'm a little crazy when it comes to inclusive education. And so if I see something there that feels like, oh, we're moving in a direction that's not good when we talk about inclusion. Now, please hear me when I say inclusion, inclusive education, because some people were like, oh, but not my child. I'm not talking about 100% all day, every day. I'm talking about each individual child to look at what the best opportunities of inclusive education is for them. I believe every child should have an opportunity to be around typically developing peers. But the amount of minutes or hours may be different from your child to your child, and that's okay. But you have to show up. All right, so the next thing is you have to invest in relationships. And again, and I attribute not a whole lot, but a decent amount to COVID of where we are today, because it separated us. So I've been running Partners in Policymaking for the FDDC Council for 10 years. We did 2 years for COVID. We did 2 years online to make sure that everybody was safe. And the first year that we came back, now these are all adults in the program. So they're either parents of young children, old children, adults with disabilities, or adults, or adults with developmental disabilities. And I have to tell you, when these 25 people walked into the room after being locked down in COVID for 2 years, I had to set up opportunities for them to sort of learn how to socialize, because everybody wanted the social distancing, right? So we had to have extra tables so that everybody was spread out. And it was really like people had to learn how to do that again, how to do this, how to come back to building relationships. And I can hands down tell you that the people who make the most progress when it comes to really advocating and doing what we need to do for our community are through relationships. Whether that's with each other or with your legislators, your local policymakers, it's that. If you don't have relationships, you have nothing. You're not going to be effective in all the other stuff that you need to do. Even as an IEP advocate, the schools, and Broward County is large. Most of the schools, there's probably some that I haven't been to. We have Well, now we got issues with under enrollment, but we had at one point 250 schools in my county. And almost 250 schools know who I am. So that's through the relationships that I built with these schools. Now, sometimes I'm sure they're like, oh, geez, here she is again. She's going to make us crazy. So I get that, and that's perfectly fine. But sometimes, I try really hard as an advocate. I'm not the advocate, I'm not the advocate who carries the big stick here. I have the stick in my bag. So if I need to pull the stick out, I will pull the stick out. But I want relationships. I want that school to know that I know what I'm doing and that I'm there to help the parent become their best advocate. Because my goal is not to come back with that parent. My goal is to give that parent what they need so I don't have to come back. So they have those skills. But I like it when I get to go to a school and be set up in a situation where they know, okay, so she kind of knows her stuff, and so let's just kind of listen, because that's what helps me do my job. Okay, you have to understand power, and we give power to what we pay attention to. So if you are someone who's on social media all the time, that's what you've given your power to. And so it's when you're dealing with going into one of these meetings, you got to be able to read the room. When I go into an IEP meeting that I'm new to, I'm new to the school, I'm new to the parent, I will spend the first 15 to 20 minutes saying absolutely nothing. And I'm sure sometimes the parent's probably thinking, is she going to do anything? I brought her here. What is she doing? I'm reading the room. I'm trying to figure out who's in control. Because, my district has somebody called the ESE specialist. So there's this person that kind of runs it. That's the LEA, right? The local education agency rep. But some counties I go to, there isn't. It could be a teacher, special ed teacher, it could be the principal. So everybody's different. So I've been to some meetings where the principal's in the meeting, but it's actually a very strong personality teacher that's running the meeting. She's not technically running the meeting, but she's running the meeting. So don't just think it's that person at the end of the table. You got to figure out who's the one who sways the others. And it's with legislators too. We oftentimes we'll tell our class, if you have to meet with an aide, a legislative aide, don't feel bad about that, because that person influences the legislator, and that stuff can be gold as well. You got to know the team. You got to know the people. Consider your communication style. If you are not good at being able to speak and keep your wits about you, make sure that you send an email in advance. These are the things I'm really concerned about. Just in case I don't get to them all, I just want you to know in advance, these are the concerns that I have. Most of the time when a parent does that, I've seen where the person will pull out the list and go, we received your list, so let's go ahead and go through them one at a time. So know that. Reflect and revise. It's always good to bring someone with you, a neighbor, a sister, a brother, a spouse, whoever, even if all they do is sit there and be quiet. Because when you get outside, you can say, okay, so how do you think that went? Because as someone who is personally connected, whether you are a self-advocate or you are a parent, all your heart is in that. And even for me, with all the experience I had working for the school system, if I would have gotten to an IEP meeting and they said, yeah, Zach was under the desk this morning, forget it. I won't hear another word, because I'll be thinking, what happened? Why did he get under the desk? What did you do? How is he still under the desk and we're sitting here in a meeting? So you have to be prepared for that stuff. And so being able to have someone there, and it does not have to be an advocate, I'm telling you. It could be just another person that consumes information that is not as emotional about the situation as you are. So there's so much value in the collective. So this is a group. We have, through my Autism Society hat, we do an Autism Day at the Capitol. And we showed up, this was this session, so a bunch of us showed up there, and we all bring photos of our kids. And let me tell you, you get these $14 at Walmart, these pictures. Super easy. When you show up at the Capitol, or really anything else, if you went to a school board meeting and you had these photos, when we walk through that Capitol, people are like, oh, I saw you guys with the pictures. What are you doing? And if you were just walking through, they just think, oh, here's somebody else. Yeah, they're coming to talk to us about whatever. But when you have a prop, it's a prop. So you have that. A couple years ago, we had somebody, I think it was the ARC of Florida actually, but they paid for everybody to have these red scarves, and we wore the red scarves around the Capitol. I thought that was really cool also. But, you know, being able to have a group that is like-minded, that is focused on the things that you need, that there's gold in that. Every year, the Florida DD Council, the ARC, other really fabulous organizations that we have in the state show up for something called DD Day in the Capitol. I think it's going to be on February 10th this year. And then there's going to be an Autism Day, which is going to be the very next day, February 11th. So if you can, and if you're interested in that kind of stuff, you can come to that. It's really great. But it's so good to see everybody together. All right, so Tallahassee specifically, those people up there, they are going to make decisions whether you are there, whether you are not. And I have to tell you, I've seen it so many times. Well, here's a really good, for instance, actually. It just happened to me yesterday. There is a bill, and it passed, and it included some information about drowning in it. And it specifically said, and you know, some of these bills are really long, right? There's lots of words. But I was contacted by a news station about a week ago, and they wanted to interview me on it. So I thought, okay, let me read it so I know actually everything that's in it. And I read it, and it said that in Florida is the fifth, they have, when it comes to autism, the fifth highest drowning rate in the nation. No, we are number one. And so when I read that, I contacted the legislator's office, and I was like, where'd you guys get your information from? And he told me, and it wasn't the source I would have gone to, but I said, that is wrong. And I said, now, it's buried in the bill. Probably nobody but somebody like me is going to notice that it's there, but it's there. And so now they're going to work on that and getting that changed next year. But if I hadn't read it, and I'm the president of the Autism Society, and I didn't even hear about it. So just that kind of stuff we need to pay attention to and know that they are doing stuff up there. And it could be what you want, it could be what you don't want, but you got to be involved. And so, you know, advocacy at work. So you elect, hopefully you guys are all voters, and be thoughtful in your voting process. Sometimes I do not vote party line often. I look to see who I think is going to be beneficial for what I advocate for and the people that I try to support. And so I just know who you're voting for before you get there. My son, who has autism, he's a voter. And we literally, you know, you get that thing in the mail before voting, and it kind of describes, you know, who's going to be what, because those amendments, if you wait to read an amendment till you're waiting in the booth, you are, I'd like to need an attorney sometimes to interpret what those say. So you really shouldn't wait till you get there, especially for that stuff. But know that stuff in advance. That way you get in there and you're confident about what you're doing. And again, you're putting people in office that are going to affect our lives. So just be mindful of where they stand on things that are important to you. So why should the voice be yours? Because, I mean, you're the one who cares passionately. You're knowledgeable about your needs, and you're willing to share your story with others. This is also a group from a couple years ago from our Partners in Policymaking class.
Is that one of my groups?
Hmm?
Is that one of the groups that I was in?
Oh, yes, I think so.
Yeah, I
Yes.
was one of the groups.
Kathy, I might have a picture in here of you. We're going to have to watch that.
Just thought I would let you know I was here.
Yes, I see you.
Sorry, I didn't know everything.
Yes. Yes. Actually, and I think I said before, this conference is filled with Partners graduates. It's very heartwarming for myself. But this is a group. Some of these people that are in this picture are self-advocates. Some are parents. And we all traveled to Tallahassee together for DD Day after graduation. And the guy, you really can't see him on the left there. His name is Robbie Holroyd, and Robbie is a lobbyist, and he is amazing. He's such a good guy. And every year he not only meets us in Tallahassee to help us figure out, okay, what do we do here? What's important this year? But he's also one of our trainers for our program, and I'll go through that in just a few minutes. All right, so what do you need to be effective? You have to understand the process. And the legislative process is not easy. You know, when I have kids, when I sit at these IEP meetings, and I'll have a school say to a parent of a 7th grader, and that's when we take civics in this state. Yeah, Susie's not good in doing in civics class. Like that's a bad thing. And I'll go, okay, wait. I don't think I understood what the word government meant till I was an adult. So I don't want to judge a kid, a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, by what they know about government at the 7th grade level. Because that stuff is hard. You guys remember that in school, understanding that? And I still have to play over in my head sometimes the Schoolhouse Rock, you know, how a bill becomes a law, right? Because it's not easy. There's all kinds of things that have to, and you learn all that stuff in partners, but it's really complex. You think, oh, we want a law, it just becomes a law. Oh no. One of the things that we were advocating for really heavy this year was cameras in classrooms. To us, it's a no-brainer. You go everywhere there's cameras, but there's not cameras in classrooms with kids who are vulnerable. So it did make it through all the way through, because it has to go through 3 House committees, 3 Senate committees. Beautiful, beautiful on the House side. The legislators that did it did a wonderful job. Representative Tremont has a couple children with disabilities, and he and his wife are amazing. And the presentation on the House floor was beautiful. I mean, he just did, if you haven't seen it, if you go to the Autism Society of Florida website, I put it on there. It's so good. But he also comments in his presentation of the bill on how the Senate refused to hear it. So we will be focused on the Senate next year, but that's how you have to understand the process so that you know what to do. It's, you know, hope and prayers are really nice, but they're not going to get you anywhere with the legislative process. Specify your goals. You know, you can't be, I was talking to somebody yesterday who wants, she wants a specific type of, she wants a change legislatively for people who are non-speakers. And I'm all over that. Like, that sounds fabulous to me. So we're in the process of figuring that out. When I was talking to her yesterday, she said, well, because I said, I am really going to count on you. Like, what? What do you want? How do you want me to chase this down? And she said, well, like something, just more information, having the schools be required to look at AAC, augmentative communication. Well, they're already required to do that under federal law. So we have to sit down and figure out what specifically, because if you write a bill that is just something nice to do, on the other side, it was something nice to do, but it doesn't actually do anything. I hate those bills. So it does take careful thinking, and that's the stuff that you also learn through partners. Prepare for defense and offense. You have to know your topic. That's why I said if you meet with one of these people, whether it's up here in Tallahassee or not, if you don't know the answer, you just say, I don't know, but I'll get back to you and I'll let you know. Develop relationships and then focus on policy, not politics. That is, because you never know who you're talking to. And if you are politically charged and you're talking to someone who doesn't necessarily agree with where you stand, you're done. They will not, and because that's where we are today in the United States. Look at all the people that lost friendships during COVID and all the craziness that was happening. Don't let that be you. So just stay focused on the things that are important and the supports that you need, and not, is it red, blue, green? I think there's even a purple party. I can't keep track of them all. But, you know, just try not to get compartmentalized into a party, but rather just because our stuff is not party line. I'll tell you a quick story. Let's see how much time I have. So I was on a plane coming back from Tallahassee one year, and the Senate, the House was still in session, so it was running late in the day. And my plane was like, I don't know, 6:30-ish or something like that. And so when we were sitting at the airport, it was just like a few of us that were flying back to South Florida. And when, so we're on the plane, but there's only a few people on the plane. All of a sudden, all these guys, mostly in suits, come on the plane, like in a rush. So I figured, this is the House. These are House members. So, and they're all around me. They're like all around me. And it's a small plane, because it's one of those little bitty planes, you know, when you fly to Tallahassee. So it's one of those small planes. And so I say to the guy next to me, who I didn't know at the time, I said, you guys must be from the House. And he's like, oh. And the guys, the two guys in front, they turn around like, how did you know? And I said, well, because I was just in the Capitol and the House was in session and you're all jumping on a plane, so I figured you were running late. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, oh, okay, who are you? What were you here for? Da, 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 da. So I start talking. Now I've got their attention, I get his attention. I got the people's attention across the little aisle here. And there was no getting away from me. It was so beautiful, so beautiful. I had the red and I had the blue and I had their complete attention. And I said to all of them, I described some of our issues and I said, we are not party line. This stuff has nothing to do with your political party. And we really appreciate all of your support, because when you support people with disabilities, you support all of your communities. It's like teachers who are good at teaching kids with disabilities are good at teaching all kids. The stuff that they learn when they go to learn how to teach kids with disabilities helps them become a better teacher for everyone. And so our stuff is no different when we're talking to these policymakers. All right, so the 3 A's of advocacy, and this has to do with whether you're doing this kind of advocacy in front of a committee in Tallahassee or you're sitting at a meeting at home, but awareness. Your friends, your families, your colleagues, so being aware of other people that are doing like-minded work. And you are in a perfect place for that, because that's the great thing about the Family Cafe, is it brings everybody together so that you guys can all build those relationships with each other. I really hope, I did a talk the other day for FAU CARD. It was a luncheon, and I was saying to them, sometimes it's really hard for us to break out of our box that we like to keep because we're safe inside the box. It's really hard to step outside the box. But if you just do one thing new. So I ask you all to get to know at least one person that you did not come here knowing. And there will be so much benefit in that, I promise you. Hands down, I really have no doubt. If you just build a friendship with somebody here and then you reconnect, I don't know, go on Facebook and Facebook friend them or something. There will be value in that, because you'll learn the things that they're doing and the things that you can do and how y'all can work together. Because like partners in policymaking, the intent is not that you come together, and you spend some time with me and the speakers, and then you just go. We have an alumni program. We want the groups to be able to continue. Lori Fahey, who started the Family Cafe, is a Partners graduate. Almost every, what I consider like a mentor to me, to people who are really moving and shaking in this state, are Partners graduates. So that's the enormity of the benefit that you get from the program. It doesn't just end when you're done with the actual class. Advancement. By getting involved, you can help advance a movement or affect change, a policy change, and then action, making contacts, writing letters, and all that. So just to give you a frame of reference on this picture, she is a self-advocate. We were in Tallahassee for DD Day. We were just observing. We were in this committee meeting. We were observing. And she reached over to me, or leaned over, and she said, can I speak? Can I go? Yes. We learn how to do that. We do mock testimonies in our class. So you learn how to do this. I said, yes, oh my goodness, yes. And so she gets up there, and it was slightly off topic, the point she wanted to make from one of the bills that they were working on, but it kind of sort of fit. But what I want you to notice about this picture is everyone up there is looking at her. When you go spend time in Tallahassee, you don't see that a whole lot. They're on their phones. They're talking to their aides who sit behind them, right? And they're moving. They're up, they're down, because they do have other committees. So sometimes they're in and out. They're kind of all over the place. But I just want you to see the value of someone who lives it, walks it, breathes it, communicating with legislators, and how they do pay attention. So don't count on the news to describe to you the legislative process and that legislators care or they don't care. You have to go meet with them yourselves to really see the potential that you have as an advocate. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit specifically about the Partners Program. There will be another QR code at the end, so don't freak out if you don't get that right now. But that's going to take you to the website that has the application, has questions and answers, and I'm gonna answer a bunch of those now, and I'll show the QR code again in just a few minutes. All right, so this program, it's going to be starting on September 12th. It is free. It is a free program to those who get into the program. It is fully funded by the Florida Developmental Disabilities Council. It is a 6-month program. It's 2 days a month for 6 months. It's usually a Friday and a Saturday. We start at 12:30 on the first day so that people can kind of get there and get settled in. If you live 300 miles, like if you live Panhandle, Miami, the DD Council will pay for your flight if you need to fly. We had 2 partners last year that rode the Bright Line, which is, if you've not ridden the Bright Line, it's like a Disney ride for me. I really liked it riding the Bright Line. So they will cover that. If you have to hire childcare, they will reimburse childcare. If you are a person who has a personal care assistant, they will reimburse the personal care assistant. They cover your hotel room, your travel. So like the miles, if you're going to drive, they will cover. You get miles reimbursed, so that you could be there. Food. You're gonna get meals. You're gonna get all. They really do an amazing job to cover any financial burden that you may have. Now, if you got to take a day off work, you got to take it off work. So they're not going to cover your day off work. But anything related to you being there, they're going to do because they find such incredible value in being able to develop advocates, because that is how we change things in the state. All right, and I'll go through more specific. So in case you didn't know, I just have the slide on the DD Council. If you guys, there's a table, so I encourage you guys to stop by the table in the exhibit hall to check them out. It's made up of 29 volunteers. They're all volunteers. They're appointed by the governor. At least 60% of them are self-advocates, family members. So there are, like, APD has a spot on the committee. So there are agencies, but 60% is made up of people probably just like you guys. And then, like, the state agencies are there. And like I said, they fully fund the program. So what is it? It's a leadership and advocacy training program. And it's, I think I talk about it again in a minute here, but it's international. This is not a Florida thing. This is an international program. We have it across the U.S. The DD councils are who usually fund them in the United States. It's also in the UK, Australia, Germany, Japan, New Zealand. I think there's 1 or 2 more. So it's a pretty big deal. Partners support individuals with disabilities, their families, in the effort to make an impact. So this picture that you see here, this was during the class, and this is where I talked about before, the mock testimonies that we do. And you don't do those alone. You see he's got some of his group. It's in groups, so that you don't have to get freaked out. I had a girl, and let me just add that if you're below the age of 30, you are a girl, okay, in my book, okay. So she was about 26, 27, and she's a self-advocate. She was such a fabulous member of our class. Like, she was just like a rock star. And her mom called me the morning of the mock testimony, and she said she's not coming. And I'm like, what? No, because you have to attend all 6 sessions. If you don't attend all 6 sessions, you will be dropped from the program. So I'm going to give you all the dates. So if you're interested, you need to check the dates, because you can't come to me and say something came up. You will drop, and then you can come back the next year, but you will not be able to stick with the program if you have to miss a day. So there's only 12 days. It's not a crazy commitment, but you have to be committed. And so Mom said, yeah. She says she doesn't feel well. And I said, well, I don't want her to have to drop. So then the mom said, I'm going to talk to her. So then Mom calls me back, and she says, yeah, she said that she's not feeling well, and she knows the mock testimonies today. I'm like, oh, is she afraid to get up and do what he's doing? And she goes, oh, I think that might be it. I go, oh, no, you tell her, no. She could come, because you see the camera. I record it for them. It doesn't go anywhere, but I record it for them so that they, can see and self-reflect about their presentation. And I said, no, she will be my camera woman. You tell her to come, and she does not have to go up there. She can run the camera with me. Oh, okay, let me talk. Oh, and she shows up. She comes in. I'm like, girl, I'm so glad you're here. You're going to help me. So I'm telling her, I'm showing her the camera, what we're going to do. And she's like, she started to watch the other groups go up. Can I go up there? I'm like, yes. Are you ready? You set? Yeah, I'm ready. She was the best presentation of all of them. And the beauty in that was, of course, everybody applauded. It was a fabulous moment for her. And she would have missed out on that. And she did something really hard that day. She was really scared, but she did it. And that moment changed her life. So I just tell you that as a story because I have countless quotes from Partners graduates about how it literally changes their life and their whole perspective on, what to do and how to change things. So there we say international, and I checked. Colleen Week is the person who started Partners years ago, and I checked with her recently to see if she had a new number, but she didn't have the new number. But it's somewhere around 30,000 graduates. Wow. Yeah, it's good. All right, so this guy in the middle, for anybody who doesn't know him, is Andy Gardner.
I know him.
And Andy Gardner, anybody who has benefited from the scholarship, McKay, that's the McKay guy. Okay, so McKay, now we got a bunch of different scholarships. But that was him who started that. He is a dad of a young man who has Down syndrome. His wife is amazing, Camille Gardner. And so this was our partners group that year. That's Mickey Brown. And that's Brittany Cossack right there, who's the self-advocate I was just talking to you about, who was afraid to show up and is standing next to Gardner. So it's pretty interesting. And I don't know if any of you guys know Eddie Hall. He's around here. Whenever I see Eddie, I'm always like, oh, you're causing trouble again. He's always around. I love him. These advocates are so incredible. And but again, this is the show up piece. You got to show up. That's how you impact somebody like Andy Gardner. Yes?
Can you do it for the country too, or just the state?
We are, like our partners program, we go to Tallahassee. We don't go to Washington. But you certainly learn the skills that you can go to Washington. I would love that, actually. I should tell my class they should advocate for that. Because if you haven't been to Washington, like to really go to Washington, it's really pretty interesting. And here's just the thing for anybody who's interested in doing this, because I didn't know this until the last time when we went, which was probably when we did this was probably about 10 years ago. You can contact your legislator, your Congress member, Senate, and they will give you, somebody on their staff, of course, not going to be them, but somebody on their staff will give you a behind-the-scenes tour of the Capitol. So I contacted Rubio's office, Senator Rubio, and one of his aides met with me and my son. They took us into places that the public does not get to see. Some of the most amazing art. I love history stuff. So there's stuff in that building that you're like, oh my gosh, this is like a museum. And it's all free. So just a little tidbit there. All right, so these are the topics that we talk about. So we talk about the history of the disability movement, which is dark. It is dark. Putting people in cages. It's really bad. So we learn about that because it's important to know where we came from, because history has this really nasty thing of repeating itself. And if you don't know what happened before, you're going to take yourself right back in there. And so many advocates have worked really hard at desegregation. And whenever I see something that has all these pretty words that are used to describe it, but it's really an institution, I remind them, would you want to go back there? You've got to be really, really careful about what we're doing. So inclusive education and advocacy, assistive technology supported in competitive employment. Not everybody's going to be able to have a job where they can just go by themselves, and that's okay. Some people, we even talk about, maybe it's not like a paid employment, maybe you want to be a volunteer. And the speaker that we have, because we bring, the beauty for me is I get to bring in international speakers. These are people from all across the country that are top of their field in these different topics. And we hear about how 67% of all Americans who have a job got that job because of someone that they know. But if you're a person with disability and the people you know is inside this little family circle, you're going to have a really hard time finding a job. So he does a really good job at giving us tips on, like, what do we do with that? How do we expand our group of the humans that we know? Supported in independent living, same thing. You know, I had, and this was something that I just added to last year's program, and it will stick, is on housing. Because housing was becoming a bigger and bigger issue, and I was like, oh, we gotta do something here. So I have people from the Florida Housing Coalition who come, and there are so many untapped into resources and things, like money for housing that people with disabilities can tap into, that again, they're not coming to you with a platter saying, what do you want? You have to learn about this stuff, and that's the stuff we talk about in this program. Person-centered planning, so making sure that the person is involved. And like the Autism Society of Florida runs a program called Peers, and it's an adult social skills program. It was actually created at UCLA. And my person who runs that program, she was trained by UCLA. You have to be trained specifically by them to implement the program. The adults that are in it have to choose to be in it. Mom and dad, you can't call and put them in the program. They have to want to be in the program. They have to want to, and we have people come in that program who are non-speakers, but they want to be in it. Because people, and our school systems do not do a good job with this, helping our children know that they have agency over their lives. So then they grow to be adults and they have no agency over their lives. So we work on that in this program. Also knowing I need community support. I need a whole lot of support. The whole premise of being independent is like really a bunch of nonsense. We're all interdependent. We all need other people to help us live life, do our jobs, get from point A to point B. If you ride a bus, what are you going to do if there's no bus driver in the bus? We all need other people to help us with stuff. And then, of course, state and federal legislative, so we got the federal piece in there. Leadership development and organizing for systems change. Because like I said, the goal of the program is not that you come and you just hang out, learn some stuff, but that you actually move on with it and make some stuff happen. All right, so as the students, what do? They complete a series of training sessions by expert speakers. You only hear from me on the first day, and that's really just to get to know her. You know, I get to know you, the class gets to know each other. It was interesting. I am one of those humans that is like, what are you going to teach me? Just teach me. But I recognize that many people like, they're more mushy than me. They want love time, right? So I started incorporating a vision board. And so they do a vision board project. And so when I started that, one of my partners, this is the first day of class, she came up to me and she goes, are we going to learn? I go, oh, girl, I got you. I am you. I am you. So today we're going to have fun today. And then tomorrow, put your boots on, because for the next 6 months, we're going to be pouring into your head. So we do a little mushy stuff the first day, but then we're all down to business. And then there's assignments. There is some homework. It's not a lot, and I'll let you know like how much time and all that in just a few minutes. All right, so who's eligible? So this is important. You have to either be an adult with a developmental or intellectual disability, or parents. You could be a parent of a 2-year-old, you could be a parent of a 45-year-old. We don't care, whatever, but you have to be a parent. So if you are a professional in the field without one of these, I'm sorry, this program is not for you. It is funded by the DD Council for people who have that personal connection. Now, if you are, because I had someone 2 years ago that was the sibling, because the sibling is in control. The sibling has guardianship, So the sibling got into the program. So if it's another family, we've had grandmas too, but it can't just be someone who's a grandma who lives 2 hours away. It has to be somebody who's part of that individual's family. So I don't know if that knocks anybody out, but that is a stipulation. I do not choose. We get all the applications. We have a 7-member selection committee that reviews them all. Because you were here today, you're going to hear a tip from me. If you're going to apply, you want to make sure that you put on there that you are interested in, like, I wouldn't say global advocacy, but basically the things that you're going to learn are going to affect communities. If you put on the application that you want to learn how to go to your kid's IEP meeting, you will not be chosen. It cannot be about you. It is going to be about you, but on the application you need to put, because what you're going to learn is how to change much bigger. You're not going to change things for one person. You are going to affect change. So just make sure that you put that on there. There's no charge to participate. Everything's covered. There's 6 sessions. All right, so where do we meet? Because it is in person. There is the Minnesota Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities does have an online version. It's not this program. I mean, it is this program, but the value of what we do here in Florida is the in-person stuff. It's not interactive. It's free. Anybody could see it. So you could just Minnesota Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities, which I know is a mouthful, and Partners in Policymaking. You'll be able to see it there. So ours is in person. It is in Orlando. It's a Florida Mall hotel. And no, you can't go shopping during class. We have class. After class, you can do whatever it is that you want. So here are the dates. Every date except for session 5. All the other dates are a Friday at 12:30, all the rest of the day. Saturday we start at 9, and we go till, you guys are out of there by 4. Sometimes a little bit earlier, depending. The session 5 is on a Thursday and Friday. And the reason it's on a Thursday and Friday is because we invite legislators. Because that's the date that you do the mock testimonies. And we invite anybody, any policymaker who wants to attend, anybody that you want to invite, your mom, your dad, your whatever. Anybody that you want is invited to attend, to watch your presentation. And all this stuff is on the website. All right, so what do you got to do? You have to commit to the 2-day sessions. So if you can't commit, then you could check out the online. You could always apply the following year, but you have to be able to commit to the sessions. Like I said before, they start at 12:30. The next day starts at 9. We do have breaks, so you get lots of breaks. And so we're not like sitting for all those hours. And most of the speakers are amazing. I mean, they're getting you guys up, moving around. You're doing hands-on activities. You're building relationships with the people who are in the program. So there's 6 sessions. Like again, we start in September, we go to February, and then you got homework. Homework is usually between 2 and 4 hours. So remember, we meet once a month. If you need an accommodation, because maybe you really struggle with being able to do something in writing, and you want to just talk to me, because like one might be, the first session is, I want everybody to be able to go see a segregated setting. I want you to go tour, whether it is a group home, whether it is some type of institution that you have in your area, mental health type of facilities, something where only people with disabilities would be. And then you're going to tell me what you think. And sometimes it's quite shocking what you see. And so if you don't, you have an issue with being able to write that out, you're just going to come talk to me. We'll do that as an accommodation. You'll just tell me what you saw, and that will be your accommodation. So I don't want to be the homework shouldn't be a thing. It shouldn't be like something, oh, I can't do the homework. It's fine. We will accommodate you in whatever you need. We want you to implement what you learn, of course, and then complete a project the following year. Now, a project, I'll just tell you what. So I came through the program in 2006. And my project that I created, and it's done the year after. So you don't do it when you're with me. It's the following year. And then I check in with you to see how you're doing. But for mine, I learned a lot about inclusion. So what I did is I set up with my school district I did training, 2 or 3, I think it might have been 3 trainings for parents on inclusive education. That was my project. I have another mom who actually, she came to me and she said, I want to get adult changing tables in every public restroom. I was like, oh goodness, I think that's a little big. How about we rein that down a little bit? So when you go to when you're on the turnpike and you're in a restroom and you see an adult changing table, you can thank Sabrina Kimball, because she was in the program. That was her partner's project, and we all end up benefiting by something that she did. Now that was a big project. You don't have to do a big project like that. It could be something small, but I just want you to know it's really what you decide that you want to do. All right, and so how do we do this, right? How do we make it happen? And it's through education and advocacy. It's by learning more. Wisdom, wisdom is pivotal in all of the stuff that we have to do with advocacy. Like I started off by saying, you have to know as much as, if not more than, the people who are going to make decisions for you. When my son was coming out of high school, we sat and we met with vocational rehabilitation and what they were going to do for him. And I let him do as much of the talking as he could. And I said to her, yeah, but the school that he's going to go to, because she said something about a state school as far as like college. And I said, no, that's not what he's interested in. It's a private school. It was a private college. Oh, no. We don't do that. We only pay for state schools. And and that was one of my moments where I was like, I think you're wrong, but I don't know. So I'm going to go do my research. So I called a guy who some of you may know. He's passed away since, but his name was Mark Hamleiter. He was who I thought was the best special education attorney that we had in the state. Loved Mark. Mark used to be a trainer for the program. And I called Mark and I'm like, Mark, can they say this? He's like, no. And I go, can I file due process against VR? And he's like, yeah. And I go, oh, have you ever done that? And he says to me, I haven't, but I think you're the woman for the job. And I was like, oh, yes. So I called VR. I happen to know the supervisor at VR. And I said, listen, I know my rights. I know that I can do this. And you guys get to decide how you want to handle this. And so he goes, I'm going to get back to you. So I saw him at a meeting that had nothing to do with me or my son, and I don't like to mix personal with business. So we finished up with the meeting, and he comes over to me, and I go, I didn't want to interrupt you during the meeting. You don't have to talk to me today. And he's like, no. He goes, you're going to get what you want. And I go, oh, good. And so a mutual friend said to him, you were going to fight with her? And I go, well, if I don't have the right, I don't have the right. But if I would have counted on that VR counselor, who was very nice, to know, like nothing would happen. But just me saying, I don't know, I don't think that's right. And then I went and I found out the right answer. That's when you make things happen. And so wisdom, you have to know the stuff. You have to get information from others. All right, so the applications are open now. They are only open until June 30th. So even if you're maybe thinking about it, I encourage you to apply. You can always contact me after and go, you know what, I looked at the dates and I can't swing it. That's fine, then we take you off. But if I had last year, I felt really bad for her. I had someone at literally 12:05 a.m. July 1st. No. And I don't care if it's 11:59 p.m. on the 30th, but you have to get it in by that date. So these are being accepted for this year's program. If you're selected, you get all the 6 months, the 2 days, the reimbursements, you get all of that stuff. So here is the QR code again if you didn't capture it before. You can reach me at shoglandpartner@gmail.com. There is a Facebook page, so you can look at that. I got Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. I don't do TikTok. Not a TikToker. They're not dragging me into TikTok. It doesn't matter. I have people say, oh, Stacey, it's so good. You can put, no, not doing it. Because all you people who are on TikTok, I've heard how you're addicted to TikTok. So I'm going to stay away from that. That's an evil I don't need to be in. But yes, on here, though, I encourage you, though, to look at our Facebook, though, because there are videos that I posted recently of graduates telling all of you guys why you should join Partners. So, and there's my number at the bottom. And thank you. Oh, and here's me again. All right, thank you guys for being here.